I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the murder for hire of loving father Dan Markel. The question is, who did the hiring? Was it Dan's ex-brother-in-law, his ex-mother-in-law, or was it the whole family? Here's the story. Donna Adelson, the matriarch of a wealthy and influential South Florida family, once cultivated the image of refinement and control. But beneath the polished exterior, prosecutors say she harbored a desperate desire to protect her daughter Wendy from a bitter custody battle with her ex-husband, Dan Markel. In July of 2014, Markel was gunned down in his Tallahassee driveway, a brazen murder for hire that stunned the community. Investigators claim Donna's voice was the quiet force behind it all, the one pushing for a solution to what she called her daughter's problem. Years later, wiretaps and secret recordings would pull back the curtain, exposing Donna not as the grieving grandmother she portrayed, but as a calculated, alleged conspirator. Her arrest transformed the case from a brutal mystery into a chilling family drama where love, loyalty, and reputation proved powerful enough to drive a grandmother toward unthinkable betrayal. You know, we've learned a lot about Donna Adelson through the trials and through the testimony of her children, hearing from friends, hearing from people who knew her, then watching her and listening to her on phone calls and other places. And the one thing I took away from it all was that Donna Adelson always felt like she was in charge. And maybe she was actually in charge. In a lot of scenarios, she seemed to be like the alpha dog in all of it, right? The one who's making decisions and the one who's like, listen, okay, or what, you know, getting a handle on it and figuring it out and making the decisions. Well, that's what this trial ultimately is about, though. It was like, who was making this decision for the murder for hire? Was it just Charlie? Was it Charlie and Donna, or Charlie and the whole family? So I want to play for you some of what I just referenced, which is Donna Adelson speaking and talking to different people in different circumstances, sometimes in court, sometimes out of court, just to give you the flavor for why I have that opinion of Donna Adelson.
Dear Mom, I know you are upset by the verdict, but the anger directed at me is not justified. I don't know how much anger. We don't.
Mrs. Adelson? How you doing? I just want to give you this. Listen. You're scared. No, don't be scared. No, I don't want to give it to you. Why do I have to?
I didn't know there was a warrant. How would I know that?
Well, we wouldn't have been able to take you if there wasn't something to trade.
So aren't they supposed to inform? Aren't they supposed to inform me if there was a warrant?
I guess it sounds like heavy breathing. It's shortness of breath. I've never had that before. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I've gained more than a third of my body weight here. The diet is all carbs, no protein, and you know, when you get spaghetti with mashed potatoes, cornbread, and white bread, that's your dinner. That's very typical of what we get. And we have had no exercise at all. We're confined, especially in the annex. The annex, we've been confined to our beds almost all the time. So I was washing my hair, and all of a sudden I felt a hand go up my back, like from the top of my butt up my back, and I yelled, "Stop it!" and I turned, and this girl said, "You like it?" And I said, "Get out of here!" And I started to scream, and she ran. He said, "We need to just get some peace. We need to catch our breath. We're going to go away somewhere." And I thought it was a good idea because I couldn't think straight. I really couldn't think straight. I was so upset, and so was he. And it was his idea. He said, sweetheart, let's go just get away. We're going to just get away somewhere so we can have some time to think.
Okay, so your testimony is that you weren't trying to go to Vietnam because you wouldn't be able to be extradited from there.
So my husband actually had said, you know, we've been to Vietnam before with friends. We were on vacation, and it really was like a place of peace. And so he said, if we go to a non-extradition country, then if the law enforcement decided that they wanted to arrest you or me, whatever, both, he said, we won't be sitting in a foreign prison waiting months to go back. We can buy a ticket and we can go home. And my understanding was that I could go home and I could turn myself in if that's what they wanted.
There are a few places in the United States you could go to get away from it all. Like you could go to Hawaii if you want, like, you know, Lori Vallow did. You know, maybe hit one of those spas out in New Mexico or in Arizona. And you wouldn't have to sit in a foreign prison if you got arrested. Unbelievable. So she speaks, and I don't know if you have the same reaction I did, but that's my reaction to the way she is, the way she was. Yet, at her trial, when it was the moment of truth, she chose not to testify in her own defense. She chose not to speak directly to the jury. She chose not to tell her story. And that brings us to the first question in our investigation this hour. Should Donna have testified? When they don't, they usually regret it. Not all of them. I guess the ones that get convicted do. Here to help answer that question is the host of Surviving the Survivor podcast, Joel Waldman, and former state attorney from Palm Beach County, Florida, Dave Arenberg. Great to have you both here. Joel, you know, watching this whole trial, seeing and hearing the evidence, do you think she should have testified to explain some of the things, the decisions and choices and conversations that she's had, some of the evidence in the case? Would that have helped the jury if they want the jury to believe the defense side here?
Yeah, I mean, Vinny, it's a great question, and the answer is, for her, it's a lose-lose. She is not a likable person, and even her own defense hinted and indicated to the jurors that they're going to hear from Donna Adelson. So now I'm wondering, what are these jurors going to think when they don't hear from her? You've got 8 men, 6 women, 2 alternates on that jury pool. But I can tell you, just by observing these jurors, and I don't want to come across like I am immodest or arrogant in any way, but you know, I've really been locked into these jurors. They don't like her. So if she got up there, I have a feeling that there'd be some eye rolling and other things going on. But her real problem is the woman who is sitting across the aisle from her, Georgia Kappelman. She absolutely destroyed the defense witnesses on cross, and they were professional attorneys and other people in positions of, you know, some power and knowledge. And Donna would get up there and speak and would just absolutely flail around. Now, I should not do what I'm about to do, and all my journalistic instincts tell me not to do this, Vinny. And I hope Dave Arenberg is closing his ears, but I am getting, I can't tell you how many texts from multiple sources very close to both the prosecution and the defense right now saying that she's having a change of heart and we could hear from her tomorrow. And it's exactly what you said. This woman is a narcissist, and I know that she had a hard time making this decision, and apparently she's sitting at the jail talking to her lawyers tonight and now wanting a chance to bite this apple. And she better be careful. But, I mean, I can't corroborate it. And if I come on your show tomorrow night and you're like, she never testified, you can make fun of me. And I probably shouldn't have brought it up. But I am getting so many texts right now.
That's a great issue. Let me go to Dave on that. Dave, what would happen if they showed up in the morning and said, hey, she does want to testify and tell her story?
Well, Vinny, I got a text about the same thing. Now, my sources aren't as good as Joel's, but it's a real possibility. And if she does, she will really upset Judge Everett. The judge has already had enough of her. She hemmed and hawed repeatedly throughout the process today, saying that she needed 5 more minutes, she needed more time, and the judge was like exasperated. And then finally it was no, close the door. So for her to come back tomorrow, the judge could, it was within his right, say, no, you made your decision, the die is cast. But because he wants to ensure there is no avenue on appeal to get overturned, that she has a Sixth Amendment right to a fair trial, he'll probably give in and let her testify. And I hope that's what happens, for the same reason why I actually enjoy monster truck rallies, because I want to see the big truck here, the monster truck, Georgia Cattleman, roll all over this self-assured, weak Honda Civic, because she is so arrogant and she believes with her hubris that she can put one over on the jury. And you know how I know that? Because her son thought the same thing. And she also testified in a pretrial hearing and was eviscerated. It looked terrible when she took the stand. Then she will be destroyed. I hope she does it. It'll be must-see TV, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. You know, all of this just seems like they're trying to perhaps create some ambiguity and some issues potentially down the road if and when she does get convicted. But if she comes back and testifies, so you said it's a lose-lose, Joel, but is there any, what are the areas though that you think she would have to talk about to explain the things that sort of are hanging out there that make her look really bad, that she would need to provide some sort of an alternative explanation for?
Yeah, well, the thing that I'm good at is knowing very little, but I bring on people who know a lot. And essentially what they're telling me is that with Donna Adelson, this direct examination could, now this is a huge if she decides to do this, it could last an entire day, if not longer, because now the defense has to go all the way back to the beginning to these Hitler youth emails. They have to start with the emails, and they have to have her explain every single piece of evidence that the government put out there, and have her counter it and just say, look, I'm just an overbearing grandmother, and I was heated at this moment, and I did this. To the next point, same thing. To the next point, same thing. But while this is going on, Dave knows this better than anybody else, Georgia Kappelman's going to have that yellow legal pad taking notes, and she's just going to get up there and annihilate. I mean, there's no one better, I don't think, in the country, to be honest, who's better at doing this, at just tearing apart witnesses, and Georgia is going to have a field day with her.
All right. Our guests are staying with us. That's why you got to watch the show, folks. You hear things you won't hear in other places, except Surviving the Survivor, of course. Coming up next, why didn't the defense call Charlie to the stand?
Did she hate Dan Markel?
I think she liked him in the beginning, for sure. And I think when he was being a jerk to my sister, I don't think anyone particularly liked him when he was being a jerk.
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Terrible.
Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot. Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
What do they think?
They think it was a murder for hire. And
What was it?
It was an extortion.
I mean, you have a thorough explanation. Would you agree with that?
I told you what happened.
Do you agree that the only problem with having an explanation for everything is that there's just so many explanations?
There's no explanation. I explained what happened.
Charlie Adelson, when he testified, his story was, yes, the money was paid. The money was paid, but I wasn't paying them for the murder they committed. I was paying them because they were extorting me for the money after they, on their own, committed the murder and then came after me for money. That was the defense at his trial. And during his testimony, there were some moments where he talked about his mother, Donna. Take a listen.
And how were your parents when you saw them?
My mom was upset. I mean, she gets a message, a call, a text at 2 o'clock in the morning from some nut who may be a Latin King gang member, and maybe we're wrong, and and it's not the police, and it is a Latin King gang member.
Is your mom scared?
Extremely scared.
Was she pretty worried about Wendy's marital problems?
No.
She wasn't.
I think she'd get upset when my sister would tell her things that Danny was doing and going to work, bad-mouthing her, but I think any parent would get upset.
But also she would meticulously go through all the filings and send long emails detailing her thoughts about every filing in this divorce.
No, I don't think that's the case at all.
Okay. Did she hate Dan Markel?
I think she liked him in the beginning, for sure. And I think when he was being a jerk to my sister, I think that I don't think anyone particularly liked him when he was being a jerk.
What about the time around the time that he was killed? Did your mother hate Dan Markel?
No, I think it kind of like tapered off. I think that she only disliked him when he was being mean to my sister. Other than that, nobody had a problem with him.
You and Donna know what's best for Wendy better than she knows herself?
No, but not at all.
Were you a spy when it came to Wendy? Did you get information from from Wendy and relay it to Donna?
At times, because I was dating Bree, and Bree worked for Dave, so I would hear stuff about Dave from Bree, so I kind of had an inside. I got inside information.
Did your parents drop off money to you on the night of the murder?
I never saw my parents there. You could look at our cell phones and you'll find that out, that we never saw each other.
I did look at the cell phones, and what is on there is your mom texts you, quote, outside your house. And
no, I mean, look at the tower information.
I think you testified that meant she was just passing by on the roadway.
She was approaching the area, to see if I was home.
All right, so he's used to testifying. He has a very calm demeanor about him. Obviously, the jury didn't buy what he was selling, but still brings me to the next question in our investigation. Why didn't the defense call Charlie to the stand? I mean, there's a lot of reasons to, maybe to kind of divert the jury's attention. This is the bad guy. I don't know. Here to help with our investigation, the host of Surviving the Survivor podcast, Joel Waldman, and former state attorney from Palm Beach County, Florida, Dave Arenberg. Dave, why do you think they didn't call him?
Vinnie, I think the prosecution did a really good job poisoning the well against Charlie. Whether the judge should have allowed the evidence in or not, that's a question, but it came in, and it was Charlie speaking on the phone with Donna, talking about how he would not date a 37-year-old Victoria's Secret model because after they hit like 25, they're too old for him, that these women are just not good for him anymore once they age out like that. And so the entire jury hates this guy. They hate him, and they know he's been convicted of murder, but they also know he's a cad, a bad dude. And so anything that he is supposed to say to help Donna would just hurt Donna. And so there's no use for him on the stand. And especially if Donna's not going to testify, Charlie wasn't going to testify as her stand-in. So no, it was a good move not to call him. And, he's going to be in prison for the rest of his life unless he testifies in the next trial against Wendy.
Wow. Joel, you've studied this family for quite some time, the Adelsons. I mean, in excruciating detail. Are you surprised? Should we be surprised that not one member of the family said, I'll take the fall? I'll take the fall. I'll go in there. I'll admit that it was me, and I will say it wasn't you, it wasn't you, it wasn't you, it was me. No one has done that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a little bit surprising. I thought at one point that this family would cannibalize itself. I mean, the only person in this family who said essentially that they did it is the one that's estranged from the family, Rob Adelson. He's the strongest witness, without a doubt, that the government has had in Donna Adelson's case. And he basically got up there and in so many words said that my family planned this, basically nuts to bolts. And I can tell you, not only has did he say that on the stand, but privately he feels horrific and horrible and finds the need, even though he doesn't have to apologize to the Markels for this crime. But I guess, Vinnie, it goes to show you how incredibly enmeshed this family is. Charlie with Donna, Donna with Charlie, Wendy with Donna. The people who are kind of angling against each other right now, I would say, are Charlie and Wendy. More Charlie anti-Wendy than Wendy anti-Charlie. So if Charlie threw Wendy under the bus, I wouldn't be surprised. But to answer your original question, I am a bit surprised that not one person has thrown the other under the bus so far.
Dave, let's follow up on that. Is there any deal to be made with one of the convicted killers in all of this? Like, Magbanua testified. I don't know if she's going to get anything on the back end of this. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think so. But is there a chance that if Charlie basically came clean and said Wendy was in on this and agrees to testify against Wendy, that he could get something less? Or do you think the DA just doesn't want to hear any of it?
No, I think the door is open, especially because if and when they go after Wendy next, it's not a open and shut case. It's a tougher case against Wendy, and they could use Charlie's testimony. So I think what the DA will do will be the same as they did with Katie Magbanua, where Katie Magbanua has now testified for the state twice, and she was not offered any deal in return. The hope is for her is that they will look favorably upon it and allow her to get out of prison before she dies. And I think they will. Actually, I do think they'll cut short her life sentence. And I think for Charlie, that will be the carrot there, is that if you testify against your sister, that's the only chance you'll have to ever see the light of day again outside of a prison.
And the only chance you'd have to date that 25-year-old Victoria's Secret model when he gets out. Exactly. Joel Waldman, Surviving the Survivor, Dave Arenberg, thank you both so much. Up next, did Charlie use Katie or did Katie use Charlie? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the murder for hire of loving father Dan Markel, who refused to not be a daily part of his children's lives. And as a result, he was shot, he was killed back in 2014. Here's the story. FSU law professor Dan Markel's death sent shockwaves through Tallahassee and far beyond. On a July morning in 2014, the loving father of two boys was gunned down in his own driveway, the victim of a calculated, cold-blooded plot. Investigators would later unravel a tangled web of betrayal and greed pointing directly to his estranged in-laws. His brother-in-law, Charlie Adelson, emerged as a central figure, accused of orchestrating the hit to resolve a bitter family feud over Markel's divorce from Wendy Adelson. Alongside him stood Katie Magbanua, Charlie's girlfriend, the link to the hired killers. One, a Latin King leader, the other, Katie's other lover, and the father of her children. And looming over all of it, the matriarch, Donna Adelson, accused of pulling strings behind the scenes to protect her family's interests. What began as a custody dispute ended as a tragic execution, one that exposed the darkness hidden within a prominent family. Katie Magbanua. I've said it before, I don't like her. She's a horrible human being. She could have put an end to this whole thing. She put it together. She put the hitman together with the people looking for a hit. She could have stopped it. She's a mother. She knew that this was going to orphan two children from their father. Okay. She had two trials. First trial, hung jury. Second trial, she was found guilty. She testified at both trials, lied through her teeth, under oath on the witness stand. Then, after her trials, a few months afterwards, and she got a life sentence, right? Then, finally, she decides to sit down with investigators, and finally, they have a discussion with her and get the truth. This moment I'm going to show you, I think, is the most real moment that we've ever seen from Katie Magbanua. She's like a robot in the courtroom when she's testifying. Doesn't even seem to be a human being. Here, you're going to see the reality of, I think she's realized it's over. It's absolutely over. Take a look.
When I was going through a lot, like mentally with Secreto too, was you know, a lot of like fighting, and so it's like I found comfort in Charlie because obviously he was the good time and he was the one, you know, that it's like when I'm with him, it wasn't stressful. But it led to my whole life being turned upside down.
Well, let's talk about this real quick. I know you took the stand like we talked about a while ago. You got on the stand and you said you didn't remember things. Yeah. That's in the past. Yeah. We're not worried about what you said on the stand. We're starting clean here. This is a new clean break. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I know you're fine. You're fine. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, just listen to me. You're already where you are. Okay? Whatever you tell us now, if you lied about something, if you weren't truthful about something, it doesn't matter at this point. You're not going to get in more trouble for it. Okay? See what I'm saying? So now's the time to be totally truthful with us. It's just, to come totally clean, tell the whole truth all the way through from the beginning. Because Charlie didn't just slip a letter in without you talking about Sigfredo and getting to that point. That's what we're talking about. Tell us how you got to that point. I understand you're not going to remember time frames and things like that, and Charlie may have done this and done that and kind of led you to that, but how did that happen? What kind of conversation did you have about Sigfredo with him? And how did it lead up to that?
For the whole time, it's like I felt as if Charlie kept planting this seed in my head. Obviously, I don't know if like he knew of Sigfredo, like he probably knew of Sigfredo from what, like me venting and saying like, like he's giving me a hard time.
What did he mean? What did he say to you, basically? Just in general?
That he needed somebody to get hurt, but like not to get to that point, from my understanding, was not to get killed, but to maybe like, I don't know, if like rough up or beat up or whatever.
Okay.
At that point.
Okay.
So but that's what I'm saying. Like I just, little by little, maybe he's like feeding things in my head, but I can't remember those specifics.
This is where you have to clear your conscience. This is where you just say what you're trying to say. Get it out. We can talk about it. We're going to talk to Chris about this. Obviously, there's a lot of conversations to be had after this meeting that we're having today.
A lot of conversations?
Not with you. Not with you. No.
Between the prosecutors.
No, between us, and there's just a lot that has to go on after this. So just say it. Just come out with what you're talking. So Charlie's giving you something, and you're giving Garcia something. What is it?
What's the agreement? What was Charlie going to do?
Yeah, something needed to be taken care of for him.
And what was that?
For Dan Markel.
Okay. And what was Charlie getting in return? Was he doing anything in return? What was he willing to do?
Well, yeah, like he would have, like the money wise, obviously, like, like they would be, like Charlie's like, oh, they're going to be taken care of.
This is like a real moment. First time I've ever looked at her. Every time in court, she's robotic. She's devoid of humanity. There, you kind of see it for the first time, and I think you get a little bit more of what's going on here. And it brings us to the next question in our investigation, and it's about this relationship between these two. Did Charlie use Katie, or did Katie use Charlie? Who was using who here? Was she after him for the money? Was she after her to see if she could find some gangster to take out his brother-in-law? Who's using who in all of this? Here to help answer that question, creator and host of Grizzly True Crime YouTube channel, Gisela K, and attorney Ali Benevento. Great to have you both here. All right, Gisela, I'll give you first crack at this. How do you see this relationship? Who is using who?
That is a really good, complicated question. I've been thinking long about this. And without an hour-long presentation with all the bullet points, I think this was a really messy, mutual exploitation. They were like partners in crime with overlapping motives and each one using each other for something else. And they both won first prize, which was life without parole. So they kind of played each other at the end of the day.
Ali, the way Katie is describing it in that interview where I see her like seemingly unguarded for the first time. Charlie was making these overtures, it seemed, from the beginning about it. And I'm wondering, like, why her? Like, she's a shot girl at a nightclub. Like, What do you think is going through Charlie's mind in approaching this girl and talking about all this stuff? Is he after her for her body? Is he after her because she comes from a different part of town than he does? What do you think was going on there?
I'm not sure I know what was in his head, but we've heard from his own mouth what he thinks of women in the place that they hold in terms of respect. So I am a bit on team Charlie took advantage of Katie, although I would agree that the two of them each took advantage of each other. But I think he saw an opportunity that she had a connection to someone who might have a certain inclination, and he exploited that.
Gisela, do you think Katie thought there was a potential future with the guy with the, I think he had a Ferrari or a, I don't know, some sort of sports car, red sports car. He obviously had money. You know, he's set up pretty well in life. Do you think Katie saw him as someone that she could potentially settle down with and was playing along for that?
Is she capable of that type of life? Settling down, you know, marriage, kids? I don't know. Was she
Well, she's got the kids. She's definitely got
actually-
the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got the kids, but now she's looking for a guy with lots of money, and she'll do anything for him. She did, however, describe the relationship as more serious than he did. So that power dynamic is very interesting. It's just that she flipped on him first, so we got to consider that too when we're balancing who's using who. So I don't know. There's a lot to unpack between these two.
Yeah, and Allie, when you think about, let's just bring Donna into the mix, right? Donna is estranged from her son, Rob. Rob married out of the religion, you know, married an Indian girl. They weren't happy, caused a lot of friction. Finally, Rob had it with these people after this murder plot. She's on J-date with her daughter to find her a nice Jewish husband, which Dan Markel was. Things didn't work out because apparently Dan was too Jewish for Donna and I guess for Wendy. Do you think that in Charlie's world, was he just going from one to the next to the next? Did he have any plan? Did he have a different taste? Because we saw another woman who testified in court who looked very similar, you know, similar kind of look to her as Katie. What do you think? Do you think Charlie led her on that maybe you could be a part of this world that I live in?
I think that's entirely possible. I mean, let's be honest. Charlie is quite charming until he opens his mouth. And so she probably met him, saw, again, the lavish lifestyle that he was living, that he, when he is well-groomed, is somewhat handsome. And she was probably enamored by that. But at some point in time, I think that he was taking advantage of the fact that she saw an opportunity to be with someone who could buy her nice things, spend money on her, and he took advantage of the fact that she was connected to someone who had tendencies, and he used her at the end of the day.
Gisela, do you think if Katie just said no about this whole finding a hitman, would Charlie have ended it right there with Katie Magbanua?
No way. Definitely not. He would have probably offered her more. Because at first it was a conversation. Halloween 2013, like, do you know someone who can harm someone else? I think if she said, yeah, but let's end the conversation here, he would have then probably bribed her, offered money, dental work, the breast augmentation that she eventually got, a car. I think that would have just been offered sooner.
All right. We got more to get to. Ali Benevento, great to see you. Thank you so much. Still to come, what happens to Harvey?
Coming soon to Court TV.
The Microsoft executive gunned down. Now his ex and her new husband are charged with his murder.
Brian Walsh, accused of murdering his wife, Anna.
It's very disturbing, very heart-wrenching.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Why do you have something against me?
She wrote a children's book about her husband's death. Now she's accused of killing him.
The high-stakes trials you don't want to miss. Coming soon, only on Court TV.
You will see that this defendant conspired with her son, Charlie Adelson, who solicited his girlfriend, Catherine Magbanua, to get this murder done. And then this defendant paid her with cash, with checks for the job once it was completed. She took the life of a loving father of 2 little boys and caused a lifetime of grief for Dan Markel's loved ones.
We talk about the Adelson family a lot, right? Obviously, Charlie has been convicted. Donna is on trial. Everyone's talking about Wendy. She's an unindicted co-conspirator in all of this, but has been used as a witness for the testimony that she has in the first 4 trials. But I want you to take a look at this guy. This is Harvey. This is the father. This is the guy who established this clan down in Florida, the Adelsons, built the Adelson Institute practice that was able to finance and bankroll the education for his children so they could have amazing opportunities and careers. And now his whole world around him is falling apart. His son, one son is estranged. His other son is in prison for life. His daughter has moved and left with the grandkids for Texas. And his wife now is on trial and may never see the light of day ever again. And that brings us to the next question in our investigation. What happens to Harvey? And I think you can interpret that a couple different ways. Like legally, will they go after him? And also like personally, what happens to a man when your whole family has imploded the way this family has? Here to help with our investigation, creator and host of Grizzly True Crime on YouTube, Gisela K, and criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, David Bruno is here. David, let me begin with you and look at it from a legal standpoint right now. What happens to Harvey? It's a big presumption, right? Because the jury does whatever they want to do. But let's presume, for the sake of this discussion, Donna gets convicted. She's done. She's locked up. What happens to Harvey?
If that's to me, I apologize.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely to you, David.
It's not a mother-daughter suite, man. That's for sure. Wendy's out of here. And Harvey, I'll tell you what about that testimony in this trial that there's an incoming call from one of the hitmen, Garcia, to Harvey's phone. Not only that, what about the pretrial hearing where Donna says it was Harvey's idea to go to Vietnam because of the extradition? And they wouldn't have to wait in those prisons in foreign countries, you know? So everyone's talking about Wendy, and is Wendy the next to come? But Harvey's not too far behind. I think it's going to be an impossible case, honestly. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And you just got to wonder how much Harvey knew about all of this, given a couple of little tidbits we've received in these couple trials with him.
Yeah. Gisela, what are your thoughts about Harvey? What happens to Harvey? But again, and we're not there yet. We could be there. We could not be there. But if his wife of all these years, Donna, locked up forever, his daughter's in Texas, his son Rob is estranged from the family, what happens to Harvey personally? What do you think happens to him for the rest of his life here?
I think it's going to be interesting to watch because he's under a lot of pressure. So the true character will now be revealed. You know, what's he going to do with it? Will he do anything now that could get him arrested or not? Because there might be wiretaps on him, monitoring of his accounts. Who knows what he'll try to save Donna? Because when she decided that she doesn't want to testify, even though she might change her mind at some point, he looked truly defeated. Like, he's been married to her for 54 years, I think they said it was. So he looked like he was lost. So I don't know what he's going to do now.
This is a really strange way, David, that this has progressed, right? Because it's been, you know, one person at a time. We're more than a decade since Dan Markel was executed by those hitmen. And we may not be at the end of the road. We may not be at the end yet. And to see Harvey lingering here. Why do you think they haven't proceeded against Harvey to this point? Like Wendy, I kind of get because they're using her testimony about the joke about the hitman, etc. But why do you think they haven't gone after Harvey by this time?
It's one more level, and it's going to be a tough case if they bring that. You know, what is it? It's that phone call. Obviously, there's one phone call, but it's not a ton of phone calls like it was with his son and Donna. So he's once removed clearly.
David, let me ask you this, though. What if he didn't know anything ahead of time and he only found out after the fact? Is that, can they go after him for that? Like, if he like this whole thing they did secretly, like they're planning a paella surprise party, but instead they're planning a murder and they keep him purposely out of the loop. But afterwards, he kind of figures it out and knows. Can that be prosecuted?
Well, no, and I certainly would if I was running that, because, you know, as an accomplice or a co-conspirator, there has to be the shared mindset, right? There has to be that sharing of the intention to actually commit the crime of murder. So if it's after the fact, and it depends, you know, if it's like close in time and helping someone get away, that's a different story. But if it's, you know, to hinder an arrest or something like that, there could be crimes prosecuted. Like, for example, if they knew of the warrant and then he conspired with her to get the Vietnam ticket and then leave and avoid extradition, that could have been something. But not if he doesn't share the mens rea with the co-conspirators or the principal as an accomplice. So that's where I think they would have the biggest problem if they want to look at Harvey for those reasons.
Yeah, Gizzle, I'm not sold one way or the other on Harvey if he knew ahead of time or after the fact. I think he knew after the fact. I mean, 2 + 2 = 4 sometimes. Charlie got convicted, so it's got to kind of resonate with him. I'm just wondering if he really knew that this was happening. Because I know he's probably going to work every day making all the money, right? But is he watching the books? You know, I'm still not convinced. What are your thoughts?
I think potentially he didn't know. You know, we could argue it both ways, but potentially he had no idea that perhaps his wife went to this level of coercion and manipulation, and that his family would turn out this way. So it's going to be interesting now, like, how much money does he have left after all this defense money that he's paid? And is he going to be on J-date? And who's going to be seeking him out with his nice apartment?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he'll be playing pickleball. All right, David Bruno, Gisela K, great to see you. Thank you so much for your help. The silence of a defendant at a criminal trial is very normal. Most defendants who go to trial believe prosecutors just don't have the evidence to prove the case. And if they don't have the evidence, the defendant walks. Sometimes testifying in a case is the last hope, the last straw. The question is, does the jury agree that the case has not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, or does she have to testify? I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.